Let's see. All right, good morning. I get my paints laid out and get it going this morning. We're going to focus on the character today, so kind of redrew them in and painted in some of the surroundings and background yesterday. So today I'm going to jump into that. So that's the plan for today. Get that sprayed out. Almost done with this tube. Switch to the the soft body acrylics, which would be nice if this is almost empty. I think kind of using up a tube of paint always kind of an interesting experience. All right. So let's see, this will need some of this red. Ah, paints are ready. Let's roll. Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you? Getting set up. Got my paints laid out. So they're right there. And always a good place to start, right? All right. Oh yeah, when do you find out? Like how long do you have to wait? Um, all right, let's focus on figure today. I think I'm okay with the drawing for the most part. So, um, that's what we're going to center in on. That's always exciting while you're waiting. Oh, look, we got ourselves a big bot over there with a whole wall of text. That's fun. And like a WhatsApp scam. That's even more exciting. All right, let's ban you. Looks like my chat is working properly today, so that's good to see. And they're gone. All right. You think like 2 or so? You mean like 2 p.m. or a couple days? All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's always fun. It's always like it's not to say fun, but it's always exciting waiting for the response. And I guess it goes email these days. So when I was, applying to my schools, especially I don't remember with the graduate school or not, but um, for my undergrad, you had to wait for it in the mail. And so it's always exciting. Oh, texting even. um, yeah, it's when I was a student, like to get into the school was one thing, but you also had to apply to get into the art program, but also apply to get into the major that you wanted. In fact, there was multiple levels of applications for my my specific program, so my illustration program, because it was at a larger university. The program for the illustration was actually really small. Um, and so there's only 3 professors, and they only take 20 students into the junior level. So there's a portfolio review at the end of your sophomore year where you apply. Um, um, they take 40 at the end at the so the freshman year you apply. They take 40 students into the sophomore year. And then end of that year, you put in another portfolio review, and they only take 20 at most. Sometimes they'll take less, but at the most they'll take 20 into the actual program. And So when I applied originally, and for the sophomore at the for the to get into this to the sophomore level from my freshman level, I was waiting in the mail for it, and I felt really good about what I had and my opportunity to get in. And then I open up this letter, and it says, "We thank you for your application." And I was rejected. Um, the So I went in to talk to the professors of the program, say, "Hey, why was I rejected? Like, I was told I was doing great. I had these good grades in my freshman classes. My professor told me I was doing great stuff. What's going on here?" And they're like, "Oh, your figure drawings are really bad." And I'm like, "Well, that's not what this guy told me. He told me they were really good." And so I sat in on a figure drawing class that summer, and was able to reapply at the end of the summer with the second application period, and got in at that point. Um, but so um, Now once I was in, I passed all the future because I had a better idea of what I needed to do and the quality that they were expecting and all these things um, that made a difference for me. But yeah, I failed that first review, which I was shocked by at the time. I look back at my point, like, oh, they should have rejected me. But at the time, I was like, well, what's going on? Like, I thought I was doing really good. I'm super dedicated to everything, and I'm working really hard, and all these things. But you never know, right? So I wasn't sure what I was going to do after that because I hadn't really even originally when I went to college, like I hadn't really planned on going. The only reason I went was my high school teacher was like, "Here, I want you to apply here for this," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I just hadn't thought about it. My parents let me do my own thing. They were pretty busy. You know, yeah. It sounds like they're making a lot of opportunities for people, so that's good. So yeah, so I didn't really have a secondary plan because I didn't really thought very much about career stuff in general. Like I just didn't. It didn't really. I don't know. For some reason, it's like it's never really mattered that much to me in terms of like the exact job I wanted, and very kind of vague to me. And I think it's true for a lot of artists. A lot of times where like they think they want a certain thing because they see out there in the wild. Um, yeah, well, I mean, it depends on what you make of it, right? So, like people will talk about how expensive art school is, and how hard it is to pay off, and there's definitely truth to that. Like I said, like I taught at Ringling, and they it costs like almost I think around about probably it might even be this amount now, but it was like just under $60,000 in tuition alone every year. And that doesn't count like living expenses and things like that. And most students actually live on campus, but they're at minimum walking away with like a couple $100,000 in debt when they walk away from school, unless they got someone else paying for it. Um, but and that's a lot of money for sure. Depending on what your profession is when you're done, like that can be payable within like a few years. But um, but not if like you're doing illustration, that's for sure. Like probably unless you've got some kind of magic business skills. But or if you've got people that are willing to fund you, then then it can be more doable. Yeah, but I definitely don't think an illustration degree is worth that much. But might have been 30 years ago. Definitely not today. So yeah, I had to pay my own way too. I mean, I did at my school. It wasn't very expensive, but and it was a long time ago, so it was a lot cheaper. But I had to pay my own way. I think the only thing I didn't pay for was my first year of tuition. I got a scholarship. I guess why I thought I was like a shoe in for this illustration program was this I was there on a full tuition scholarship my first year, and um, okay. At least that's something. You get your neighbors and your friends to pay for your education indirectly, right? So, but yeah, um, but I always say, take advantage of every opportunity you have. So, regardless. Good morning. And painting the face like this, I like to kind of start with mostly like a Zorn type palette. Just because it makes my life a little bit easier, and then I can add in other colors. Like I'm start putting in some yellow here. But oh yeah, which one are you going to get? Honestly, like a cheap option is just the really small ones that don't have screens. I've met a lot of artists who prefer those. Well, a number of artists, not a huge number, but prefer those over like a Cintiq. Um, One of the big reasons that they give is their hand is not in the way, so that basically they can see the whole screen, but they don't have to worry about their um, and then there are a lot of these kind of cheaper, I guess, Chinese brands that like Huion or XP Pen. Like you can get like a small like A5 tablet, which is actually a pretty good on if you're doing like the little handheld ones. Um, they you can get them like for 25-30 bucks. Like they're not expensive at all. And The screen is nice, don't get me wrong, but it's actually not that necessary. Like I've got a big Cintiq over there, and I like it. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm glad I have it, but I've been using like one of these smaller tablets at school uh, to draw on my classes. If if my classroom doesn't have a Cintiq, right? So I don't want to be moving it around. But it's a small drawing tablet with no screen on it, and I really like it. It's a little practice to get back to using them because it's been so long since I've used that type of thing. I actually bought the larger one, which I would think I thought it would be okay, but it's just a little bit too big. I'd rather have the smaller one. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of what happens with the smaller ones, like you put it in your lap and you kind of move and you move your hand and then you see it moving on the screen. So, um, yeah, if you haven't tried it much, like it's worth trying out because they are just a lot. You're going to spend a lot less money on them. It used to be, the Wacom was the only brand you could get and the only one worth getting. Like there were other brands at the time, but like they just didn't work like Wacom would do in terms of sensitivity. And now there's all these other brands that are like, they're instead of spending $3,000 on a big screen like I did, you can spend like $400 for. Won't be probably won't be quite as large, but but I see a lot of students using those smaller, kind of almost laptop sized ones that are very portable. The Huons or XP pens and things like that. Seems like they work really well. Um, so it seems like there's better, less expensive options out there. Yeah, so it's probably like those Huons or XP pen things, right? Rather than a Wacom. So yeah, but yeah, big thing you can do as a student is coming in like talking to your teacher about the things that you're actually interested in, like showing that you are passionate about whatever it is that you are wanting to do and how that can relate to a class. Like showing them the artists you like or other things. Um, I think I was talking about that yesterday, but yeah, but being able to see what a student is interested in is actually it makes a big difference. Um, and I like to bring in books and things to share with my students. Like I brought an MC Escher book of MC Escher work yesterday, and like a couple of the students were like, "Oh, I've never looked at this before." Or they didn't realize where certain kinds of imagery had come directly from him that got used in things that they like, and he's actually pretty famous. So I was like, so surprised they hadn't heard of him, but I think yeah, part of the problem of the online screens on days is that there's so much stuff put in front of people. It's hard to kind of know where things come from and why and the value it has. Oh, there's another bot. And bam. So yeah, but so like if there's something about that comic artist that's related to the things you're trying to study, that can make a big difference for kind of how up your skills while you're in school. Well, there you go. I mean, we're seeing a lot more variety, like in animation, right, in terms of styles. Let's get some green on here, huh? But I think there's, these days, I think there's a lot more opportunity for more things. It's funny. It's like, people freak out about, AI. It's definitely causing a problem. But I think at the same time, like this appeared on the docket of problems in the world that people are, for some reason, causing. Um, it happens to come at the exact same time when like the opportunities for like making your own thing and having access to the resources for the most part like is relatively inexpensive and accessible. So it's like it's very kind of strange dichotomy where it's like people are taking away your opportunities just as like they're the most easy to get access to, or trying to take them away. I don't know if they're actually going to be that successful in the long term. It was funny. I was talking to one of our professors last night as we were leaving, and I was like, they were like, "Oh, this AI thing is." They've been on sabbatical and they don't know my opinions, I guess, on the issue. So they stepped into a mind trap when they started talking to me. But like, oh yeah, it's doing this and this. The students really need to be able to understand X, Y, or Z thing. And I'm like, no, they don't. What are you talking about? Um, and I kind of went through and explained all of these issues. The person had never heard any of them before. They were completely unaware of the economics, the problems it causes. It's like, it's interesting because the people I'll talk to, not this one in particular, but like other ones, they'll say, "Oh, I'm all about the data. I want to know the data." And as soon as someone tells you that, that's like a cue. Here's a life lesson for you. As soon as someone start telling you that they're all about hard data and the real facts, they're lying to you. Like they do not care about that. The only facts that they care about are the ones that they already agree with. And that's generally true of most people. It's probably true of me, but uh, um, it's you know, it's something to think about when people start telling you that, "Oh, I'm all about hard data," and then present them with hard data that they don't agree with. They don't care about it. Um, so, but anyway, yeah. So it's like one of our people in our department, like, he's like, I like the hard data. And so as soon as he gets the hard data, he's like, well, I think it's biased. Well, I'm like, well, I think you're biased. um, Yeah, so something to kind of be aware of as a life lesson is people start telling you it's like, oh, it's like you'll hear in the United States the Federal Reserve chair, so the person in charge of the bank that makes all of our money here, he'll say he's data dependent, and that he's just lying about that. But um, um, yeah, I've just found that to almost always be universally true. So people start telling you that it doesn't matter who they are or whether they agree with you on certain issues. As soon as they start saying that, it's like, no, you're not data dependent. You're biased. You just like to focus on the data you already agree with. Yeah, because like yeah, a lot of people like I've had to be aware of AI. Like my preference would be to ignore it completely because I see it for what it is. It's just a big bubble that's going to pop. And it's been pretty obvious to me from the beginning that it's like it's just a waste of time and resources. Um, and like it's not even vague. Like I look at like past bubbles, and it's like this is the exact same trajectory, the exact same pattern, and it's gonna pop, and it's gonna cause a bigger mess than past ones because the infrastructure that they're building on top of it has a very short shelf life. And so it's going to be actually even a bigger problem than I think a lot of people anticipate in terms of markets and finance. Like, um, so I would just, largely I would just, my advice generally would just be to ignore it. Like, don't worry about it. Um, 'Cause it's simply not capable of the things that people say it's capable of. In fact, one of the things you heard from people is like, it's as it will ever be now. Like, it'll only get better, is what they're trying to say. And that's actually not true of these systems. With LLMs, like the more data and the more compute there is, they actually get less accurate over time, and which is really funny. Or like they talked about it being, a creativity enhancer, but what it does is homogenizes things. It doesn't actually add creativity. And then the other thing they'll say is like, well, people are using it in the industry. And I'm like, well, it depends on who you're talking to. Um, Yeah, it's well. The thing is, I like to point out to people, especially the people that are supportive of it, that it's harmful to everybody at every level of its development, access, use, and even the people that don't want to use it. Like it is harmful at every step of delivery and production and application. Like there is no tangible benefit that is equal to the costs that it incurs on everybody, including the people that make it. Like even like OpenAI, it's run by a big douchebag, and it's harmful to him and his company, even though they're built on making it. Like it's anti-profitable. Um, it's like the Sora thing that just came out, where like it's revealed that Sora was costing them $1 million a day at the end, and they'd spent more than that making it. And at the very beginning when they were promoting it a lot, but um, and then their revenue since it came out, 6 months ago or whatever it uh, was about $2 million, which is crazy. And even if you were just to ignore like the environmental issues all by themselves, like if say they solve that, right? Um, Whatever that might mean, say they solve that, it's like it still causes to become dumber. And there's some evidence that people may not be able to recover from that uh, effects on their cognition. And there's people that believe, well, I effort in my field, and therefore never lose my ability, and I can use this AI system to help augment my stuff, and blah blah blah. But that's not how it works. But they look at me like, well, I don't believe you. It's like, well, you're welcome to believe what you want to believe, but this is hard data. Or the fact that it's deeply unpopular with students and they find it really offensive. It makes everything more expensive. So even if you're not using it, like it still makes your electricity go up in price. And it uses local water. It has to use fresh, it's not just water, it's fresh drinking water that it has to use to cool the server. Um, and unlike past like technological bubbles, like the .com bubbles, the .com bubble they like to cite and say, well, out of the top .com bubble, you already got all this cable. So even though like it collapsed and it caused all these problems, like there was still like this networking that all got laid out and was usable for like 10 to 15 years, which is definitely true. Like there's all, it's like in the housing crisis, right? When the all the loss in value in houses happen, still the houses, right? They still exist, and people can move into them. And even though maybe you pay less for them or whatever, you like they're still there, and they can and houses last a long time, right? You can live in the same house for 100 years, whatever. Um, and um, So you have that, or like I said, the .com bubble, we had all of the networking fiber that was out during that. Even though it didn't end up being used right away, it was there available as a resource for ISPs and things later on. But with the data centers, like the chips that they're using, these graphics cards from NVIDIA mostly that they're using, they have a very limited shelf life. They last 2 or 3 years, and not only do they wear out very quickly because they're the way they're being used, but they also get outdated every couple of years, right? So every year there's a new number being slapped, or every couple of years a new number being slapped on the video cards, and um, so that means they're obsolete, and internet fiber, you could definitely improve it, but it's only going to get so much better. Um, so yeah, so if it collapses, well, the other thing with the graphic cards, so not only do they go obsolete, they can only be used for the purpose that they are being built for. So it's like you can't go to the data center when they go out. They're going out of business sale at the data center. You can't buy a video card from them and stick it in your computer. Like these are specialized graphics cards that can only be used for one purpose. And So if this technology, crashes or gets diminished in any way, like you can't you can't recoup any costs from the cards. Um, Maybe they can be used for certain kinds of data processing, but that's all they can be used for. Yeah, like I'll talk about with like the I've had some people say, well, I forget the name of the disease where you can't, or the mental problem where you can't visualize things. I don't remember what that's called, but they'll say, well, I need it for that. I'm like, well, if you can't visualize things, what does it matter if you create visuals of things? So what? So yeah, I look at all these things and it's like to me, it's obvious that there's all these problems, and I talk to people like, well, no, they'll solve it. Oh, good luck with that. That's we call this that prognostication, and it's not like a good way to handle your future planning. Is to anticipate that things will just kind of work out. Usually, it's better to anticipate the opposite. Plan for the worst outcome. Yeah, so I wouldn't. While you're in school, this may wash out while you're in school, right? So the next 4 years, you may see the whole thing kind of evaporate. And so, like the big focus for I think anybody in school or any artist, even if they're not in school, is just to keep focusing on developing their craft and getting good. Um, really, really mastering your craft, whatever that may be, and that's always going to be the best route. That's always kind of the best ongoing strategy to. Um, and I found like that's why I always kind of looked at it's like one of the arguments I make at my school is that we should definitely emphasize the types of things that don't change. So like high level drawing, high level design, high level thinking, high level planning, craftsmanship. Things that never ever go out of style no matter what. And so people are like, well, like AI makes it possible to not have to worry about these things. And I'm like, well, I think the evidence is for the opposite of that. But I guess you're welcome to be delusional on that, but don't bring it into my classroom. Yeah. Well, it's like, Lumens didn't invent that, but he did popularize it, right? Um, so it's like, yeah, that structured drawing approach to head, like you see it in manga books, you'll see it in comic drawing books, you'll see it in figure drawing books. Like it doesn't change. It's not the only way of doing things, obviously, um, yeah, it's the kind of thing that doesn't change. Or even like if you're thinking like digital stuff, like sculpting, even if you are using like ZBrush or Nomad Sculpt to sculpt your stuff, um, like the principles of sculpting really don't change. You might use some different tools inside of those programs to do what you need to do, but like the actual principles of how sculpting form and understanding form function like really don't change and haven't changed. And so the more you can understand that, the better, regardless of whether you're using clay or digital materials. The same with like color theory or composition or telling stories or coming up with ideas. Like you might use different materials, or you might use a computer or not or whatever, but the way these things actually function doesn't really change. And it makes a really big it's important to kind of see that. If you don't see that, if you're just like, well, look at all the technology and it's overwhelming and it's changing all the time and I have to learn this and that and this other thing, and um maybe, but um but I think if you kind of let yourself be driven around like that, you kind of end up chasing your tail. But if you just like get really good at the you need to get good at, it helps you transfer that quality to other things. So um it's like some of the best ZBrush people early on were people that had really good backgrounds in traditional sculpting, because as soon as they kind of got how the tools worked and how the interface functioned, they could like easily transfer those physical skills into digital ones. So I don't know, almost an hour. I could do a couple hours as usual, but yeah. So yeah, definitely. One of the arguments I've been making in my own school is that maybe we should re-emphasize. I prefer analog, saying analog media over traditional media, because um, I just think it's a better explainer of that. Um, but so um, yeah, but definitely work as much as you can in real. I mean, it trains your brain differently. It affects you like in a very real way. Um, all right, let's fix up these. And then I would also, in general, I also say focus on quality rather than quantity. And there's a place for both, but as you're working on your projects, like you need to put a lot of time into them. A lot of students seem to think that they can kind of do things in a balanced, minimal way, and that's just not how you learn. Like especially when you're young, you have a lot more energy, and you should definitely take full advantage of that. Um, and like put in crazy, crazy hours. You need breaks once in a while for sure, but like in terms of breaks, once I mean like when you have vacations coming up in school or the occasional weekend, but for the most part, like you should be putting in 12, 16-hour days working on your school stuff, with some exceptions, because you're going to be investing all of this money and time into attending an expensive school, maybe, and you'll get a lot better the more time you put in. It's like one of the things I like to point out to students is the amount of time they spend in a single class works out to, including homework time, like if you kind of have a general amount of homework you expect from students to do between classes and things like that. It works out to about a month of full time work, which is not very much time at all to actually get good at something, right? And so, really, students need to put in like twice as much time on their, especially their art homework, their major homework, than they think they should. Um, so, um, that's something to really think about. Like, if your teacher tells, well, you need to spend, 30 hours on this project, and you're, well, maybe I need to actually spend 60. Because the idea is like the more time you're going to put into it, you might actually cause problems, but you're trying to get to that point where you're completing projects at a high quality, not trying to finish them at a high speed. Because as soon as you start getting to the quality experience that you want, like the um, so yeah, the goal is to like finish high, do highly polished, very high quality work, pushing yourself as far as you can go, and then probably a little bit further if you want to be successful. Um, a lot of artists, especially these days, I think because of social media, they tend to focus a lot on what the work-life balance thing, and I just don't think there's like in the world of the arts, I just don't think there's a lot of space for balance per se. Like you kind of have to be all in on it. It's not the kind of job where it's like, well, I'll do this during the day and then I'll play my video games at night. and I'll have some nice, comfortable balance. I'll have achieved equilibrium in the world, and that's just not. It's not a. That's not a very good path for being successful at anything. But a lot of people tend to operate on that belief, and it's loser talk. Yeah, see, drawing digitally wasn't even an option when I was growing up. Um, yeah. So yeah, it's definitely the big thing is like you really gotta just have to work really hard and kind of be obsessed with your learning and learning things outside of class. Like if your homework is easy or whatever, you can always find ways of making it harder or finding learning new things because you're not going to be able to learn in spite of what schools say. You can't learn everything you need to learn in that 4 years you're in university. You have to really like do other things too, unless it's like super focused on a very narrow set of skills. And even then, like it's still hard to like put everything into that 4 years that they have to include. um like it's just it's not easy to even for like we've been having like we've been reworking our own major, and I've been participating, leading that in a lot of ways, participating in it very heavily. And um yeah, so but that's like a big thing to do is like is actually really push yourself in ways that maybe you don't anticipate as being um expected of you, even if it's not that expected. You always got to be doing more. I had a student get really incensed at me last semester because of the points I was making about that. Well, I think this person like misread my joke as being like hyper serious in terms of like explicitly, but it was also like a point that's worth making. That you can't like get by on doing okay or getting A's in your classes. Like that's not any indicator of future success. And you have to produce work that is useful for others. Um, um, yeah, it's not a good idea to do that. So, all right, where to go? Trying to get this, stuff locked in. I don't want to finish everything that I like the face just yet. I want to get more stuff worked on around different places. Let's see, water on here. All right. Oh, look, another bot. I do love me bots, right? Let's see, where are you at, Twitch? There we go. Hi, Twitch. Oh. Yeah, I've noticed Twitch actually automatically caging those people up most of the time, but they still don't seem to catch all of them. They all use like the same language for some reason. And I don't understand why they don't get caught, because they literally say the same thing, and like it's the same link or the same thing they're editing at, and I don't understand why they continue to problem. Yeah. So again, in school, I would definitely not. Well, I've noticed they don't really change the wording. Like it's almost always the same wording, and that's why I'm like, it confuses me because it's basically the same. So yeah, I wouldn't fret too much about external things. Um, Craftsmanship's always the place to go. Work ethic, understanding, getting that education really locked in. Uh, Get a bigger brush up. Yeah, I have to. I need to like sit down and like play around with the tech on these streaming platforms more. I just get so busy trying to make real things that you know, I don't want to spend time worrying about any of that. We're like isolating the bots for a while, and then they, at least they didn't catch that one. But yeah, I'll have to look at it. I don't. What's Stream Elements? Isn't that like a secondary streaming software? So I'm using OBS, and then I've got like this multi-chat thing. I forget what it's called. Somewhere over there. Yeah. I mean, I don't have enough. They don't show up too often. It's like usually a couple times during the stream they pop up, but I don't even like. Do people actually respond to those bots? Like, do they go over there and like, oh, I'm going to buy all this fake engagement so I can have fake engagement? Like who's it for? It doesn't make any sense. Like it doesn't really help. I mean, I guess if it looks like you have more, um, you know, if it looks like you have more than what you have, it can make you look more popular temporarily, but like it doesn't really do you any good per se. Oh yeah. But I mean, it's like it's not how you make money off of something if it isn't, real. There's a belt that's going to come over that. Let's see, where'd that outfit go? There you are. Yeah. But I mean, like, but like, Twitch can probably tell, probably, I don't know for sure, but they can probably tell, if the followers you have go engage in certain ways and whatnot, they can probably tell, how real it is. I should probably watch more streams, honestly, but let's see, where's that drawing at? so this needs to come up. Um, it's like a long time ago. We're talking like 6, 7 years ago now. Like I was using some kind of hacks with Instagram before it became a problem. Like where you really, where they could tell what's going on. But basically, you could do there were these apps that you could automate follow and unfollow, and I tried that out for a while, and it got me to a certain point, but uh, real growth didn't happen until later. Um, it got me like to be like a third of where I ultimately got to, and then uh, but I stopped doing it as soon as it became like an account issue, or a little bit earlier than that too. Um, but definitely worked at the time. But I would, it would definitely cause problems if you did it today. And the main reason I wanted it at that amount was that I got to was because I wanted to be able to post links in my stories, which you couldn't do unless you had more than 10,000 followers. And so that was like the big reason that I wanted that number specifically. So once I got to that point, like I didn't really care as much about it. But I was like, I really curious because I want to understand how these things work, and so that was one of the reasons I went down that particular path. Was like, well, how does all this stuff work? Like, why does this happen or this other thing happen? And why is it happening for me? I feel like it should be, and um, but that was you do that now, like the algorithms on the accounts, and I don't take a lot of you know I don't have like an ego with it. It's like if people follow me or don't follow me, I don't really care that much. It is interesting when I'll see like a professional artist out there that follows me, but it's like, oh, that's neat. Sometimes I feel like I should reach out to them a little bit more than I do, but let's see. That needs to be higher up. But yeah, definitely an authentic following is the only following that really matters. So like one of the things I've been talking, because I do this business class with my students, and at my university, and it's kind of called senior portfolio, and really it's mostly an infrastructure class with some work on um, but uh, um, but yeah, one of the things I would point out to is that there are three reasons for using social media for your art. Basically, in terms of like professional activity, there's lots of things you can do things for any reason, but for professional things, there's like basically three categories that matter. So one is customers, one is clients, and one is connections or networking. I like the three C's just because it makes it easy to remember. Um, Um, so yeah, if that's like the outcomes you're seeking for your social media stuff, then that's kind of where you want your work to your efforts to lie, and that's where the metrics matter. Like you're trying to sell something, or you're trying to um, participate, get engaged with other specific people, not just people in general, but like specific people is usually a good idea. Yeah, it's 9 a.m. here. I'll be on another like 30 minutes. So I'm trying to put in like 2 hours on these paintings in the morning. That way I could like use up my paint, and that's usually how long it takes to dry completely. On the It says I have 3 viewers. I don't know how many I actually have on Twitch at the moment. That just counts out the number of people that wandered in. But everybody else is really quiet. What's up with those people? Yeah, maybe they're foreigners or something, non-native speakers or something. Yep, you too. Have a good one. Good luck out there. Hopefully you'll get some good news soon. for your application. Alright, where's next? Some more color in here. Yeah. Oh, we got 15 more minutes, huh? Let's see. Good morning. We'll pop it in and out. How are we doing? Just checking something over here. Boom. All right. Yeah, be on for about 15 more minutes. Do let me know if there's any questions out there. All right. Kind of getting stuff plotted out a little bit better in here. Good morning. Let's see. Oh, look, we got ourselves a big old bot. Let's dispose of this bot real quick. Thanks for wasting my time. I appreciate it. Did that delete you out of here? Yep, alright. You're gone. Goodbye. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm working on the figure today, so I focused on the background first, and then I'm spent a couple hours working on the overall the figure today, and then come back tomorrow morning and work on it some more. So I want to kind of get the big effect down first, and then we'll figure that out too. So, yeah, thank you for coming in and commenting and not being a bot. Hate those promo bots so much. But I'm on for just like a few more minutes, and then I'll be back tomorrow morning to work on this. So, yeah, that's what we got kind of going on here today. Yeah, so I've been doing these little acrylic paintings lately, and Let's see. All right, how are we doing? 3 more minutes. Oh, appreciate that. We're just about out of time for this morning, so I appreciate everybody that came in, and I'll be back tomorrow to further develop this. So, looking forward to kind of bringing this one to a close eventually, but definitely be busy with this during the week. So, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Talk to you all later.